After a car accident left me bedridden, my stepmom persuaded my dad that I had stolen the car without her knowledge. Without hearing my side, my dad told me I deserved it and kicked me out of the house. Now, 2 years later, I'm having the last laugh because their lives have completely derailed due to that one move. So 2 years ago, I got into this terrible car accident. I got rear-ended by a truck whose driver was drunk, and it was pretty bad for me because I was left completely bedridden for 3 months. After that accident, I seriously couldn't move a muscle even if I tried because everything hurt so bad. I was pretty busted up, but that didn't even seem to matter because my dad kicked me out of the house anyway. I was 18 years old back then and had taken the car out to practice driving for my driver's license test, which was a few days away. When I got into that accident, I hadn't even taken the car very far. I was in the neighborhood when it happened. I had explicitly asked for permission from my stepmom since my father had made it very clear that I needed to ask at least one parent before I took the car out in any situation. So I asked her, since my dad was at work, and she had told me that I could take the car. But later on, she flipped the story around to make it seem like I was going out to visit my friends and just to look cool. I had taken the car and snuck out without asking her. My dad chose to believe her without even hearing my side of the story and kicked me out. My stepmom had always been weird around me, but I had never expected her to lie to my dad about something like this and get me kicked out of the house because that was just extreme. She had been a part of my life ever since I was 4 years old. My birth mother had never been in the picture after giving birth to me. She just randomly decided that she did not want to be a mother anymore and signed away her parental rights. She and my dad were never married, so it was easier for her to leave, and my father was ready to accept the responsibility and raise me all on his own, so he never questioned it either. She had never tried to be a part of my life, and so I was happy even when my father started dating my stepmom. After 3 years of dating, they got married, but by then I had realized that my stepmother had no interest in being a mother to me. She was just my father's wife, nothing else. When I was a child, we did not get along particularly well, and she usually just avoided me. But as I grew older, we started getting along even less and would argue frequently. Even when the arguments were about petty things, she would take it to extreme levels and then complain to my father about my terrible behavior. He would always side with her, which was pretty frustrating because she was the one who picked a fight with me unnecessarily. We were already not on good terms, and I was just happy that I was going to be going away to college in just a few months. But that never happened, and I ended up having to move in with my grandparents because my father did not want me anymore. It had nothing to do with money since my dad's pretty rich. He has a paper company of his own, and even apart from that, he had medical insurance for the entire family, and the car was also insured. So I know for a fact that it was not about money. The one thing that made him kick me out of the house was whatever my stepmom had told him with regards to how the accident had taken place. She had cooked up and fed him some nonsensical story about how I had been planning on going out with my friends and I wanted to look cool, which is why I had taken the car out without her permission. Apparently, she told him that she had gotten to know about it by eavesdropping on me, and she said that she had even told me not to do such things after hearing that conversation. But I had just ignored her and gone out of my way to do exactly that. This happened after the accident, and the doctors had said that I was going to be bedridden for the next couple of months until I healed enough to resume normal movement. So I was already suffering enough because of that and the pain of the accident. And then to top it off, my stepmom had started making up stories about me to lie to my dad. For 1 week, we kept arguing back and forth about what the truth was, and eventually, I lost my cool and started screaming at her. I called her a lot of names, accused her of being a liar, and said that she was just jealous and that she could not have my father all to herself. I said that she was sick in the head for trying to accuse me of doing something that I hadn't even done, especially given my condition. I think that was pretty much the last straw for my father, and he decided to shift me to my grandparents' house, who were kind enough to take me in. I felt very upset that my father was kicking me out of the house when I was in such terrible shape. I even told him that the fact that he was choosing my stepmom over me meant that I was never going to see him the same way again. He said that I apparently needed to be disciplined, and he couldn't keep hurting his wife just because I did not know how to behave myself and wanted to be a brat. So it was very obvious to me that he had chosen her side and had decided to believe my stepmom's version of what had happened because he did not trust me. It was really heartbreaking for me, and after that, I made up my mind that I was never going to speak to him again. It was a very hard decision for me to make because, right from my childhood, it had just been me and him. My stepmom had never really been part of my family in my head. She had been there all along, but I never considered her a part of the family because I'm pretty sure that in her head, she did not consider me family either. However, after that decision that my father had made, I decided that neither of them were worthy enough of being called family since that was a big word that came with a lot of responsibilities. My father had tried to be there for me initially, and I respected that, but in the end, he valued my stepmother a lot more than me. After I moved in with my grandparents, they were the ones who took care of me and even hired a full-time nurse to help me out. They were nice people, and I had always had a good relationship with them. The only reason I had not moved in with them earlier was just because I was still holding out hope that maybe my father would change eventually, but he did not. Tough luck for me. Anyway, they are good people who took care of me and made me feel really loved since they could understand that I was going through a very bad phase of my life. They tried to get my father to visit me, but he kept coming up with excuses. Sometimes he was too busy, and other times he was too tired from work. So for almost 2 months, he did not visit me even once after the accident and after he had kicked me out and moved me to my grandparents' house. Eventually, even my grandparents got into a fight with him because of how he was behaving and said that it was not fair to me. So my father decided to tell them that he had no intention of getting back on good terms with me anytime soon because apparently, my stepmom did not approve of me anymore and had given him an ultimatum to choose between her or me. He had chosen her, and he believed that I needed to learn to be a better person and get along with people. Until that happened, he could not see us having a relationship because he thought that I had been a very difficult child to deal with in recent times, and he could not put up with that kind of behavior anymore for his own sake and his wife's. So that was that, and after that, we've not spoken. My grandparents were the ones who sent me to college after I had recovered, and they have been there for me all along. 2 years have passed since then, and I'm going to graduate in 1 year now. I've been trying to move on with my life, and it has been difficult, but I have good friends and grandparents to be there for me, so it's relatively easier for me, I guess. Anyway, I hadn't heard anything from or about my parents in the past few years, and until recently, I had no intention of ever getting back at them or doing anything to disrupt their lives. I was living and doing just fine without them. But I guess my stepmom has serious mental problems because she reached out to me last week to tell me that she and my father were renewing their wedding vows in a couple of weeks and she wanted me to attend that event. I was very confused as to why she wanted me there, and I wrote back to her instantly, telling her that I was not going to be coming. But she told me that I absolutely had to be there because my father was going to reach out to me in a couple of days to ask me about it formally. One of the major reasons that he wanted me to be there was because some of his business associates were going to be there as well, and they knew he had a daughter since they had seen some family photos on his desk. It would be very weird to explain to them why I was absent from such an event, and my father had been planning on reaching out to me to make amends for the falling out we had.